Intentional, wasn't it? How do we... That's better. Hi. When I was young, my parents always told me, it doesn't matter what you end up doing, as long as you're happy. And I was really happy for a long time when I was a kid. And we had every reason to be. We were a really, really happy family. There's no way I could have predicted at that point that just a few years later, all I'd want to do was be dead. We were such a happy bunch of kids. Me, my two older brothers, Ben and Christopher, and my lovely supportive parents, Jane and Phil. Us three kids would dress as Ninja Turtles using nothing but pajamas and a laundry basket. And we'd ride roller coasters at home using nothing but a mattress and a stairwell. And we'd bungee jump from the top of the bunk bed using nothing but a skipping rope and stupidity. And times are really good. From the outside, a lot of people think every Australian is 6 foot tall and looks like Hugh Jackman, which is obviously completely true. But the problem with that is that there's a culture in Australia of being really manly and really tough and not talking about your feelings, which really held me back a lot. I was really scared of being judged, of being ostracized, because I became unwell when I was 14. I experienced a really, really crippling anxiety, a really deep, dark depression, and I eventually developed psychosis. I'd see things that weren't there, and I'd hear these voices that weren't there. And it was really, really disabling. But the worst part of it, I think, was not being able to talk about it. And that really, really crushed me. Sometimes getting out of bed was the goal of the day. Sometimes just trying to brush my teeth. Sometimes showering and leaving the house. And the biggest challenge, I think, was just staying alive. And even at that, I was failing. I was terribly suicidal because I'd lost my sense of self. I'd lost my sense of happiness, and I'd lost any chance of being happy in the future. It was really, really tough. There was a time one day when I was 16 where it was a bright sunny day, but the tiles of the house were really cold. And I remember walking downstairs across those tiles, and my whole family was downstairs crying, and I had no idea what was going on. And they sat me down, and my dad explained to me that my older brother, Christopher, had killed himself the night before, which was just when I was at my absolute lowest too, just by coincidence. And I remember not feeling anything. I think you're meant to feel angry or sad, and I remember crying but having no emotions. It was just too raw and too numb. And in that moment, I realized Christopher and I are in the same place. I might as well be dead. My counselor would tell me to look in the mirror and say a mantra. I'd have to look in the mirror each day and say to myself, my life has value, I am loved, and I have a positive future ahead of me. And I remember doing that every day and just thinking, why are they making me lie to myself? I don't believe a single word of that. Part of my condition was that I would forget a lot. I couldn't really remember most of my life. And I eventually ended up forgetting Christopher. And I needed help with that because when someone dies, we often say, well, at least we have the memories. But for me, I didn't. I didn't have the memories. The only conversation I ever remember Christopher and I ever having was the very last one we had, a very short one, in which he said, nice socks. I was not wearing nice socks that day. I think he may have been using sarcasm. But I asked Mum if she would write a book, and she wrote a book about our family story, about Christopher's suicide and about my mental illness and about us as a family trying to get together and rebuild. You know, we stopped having Christmas that year. We broke apart a lot. We became a fractured family, but I had the most amazing supportive family in the whole world. So Mum wrote this book, and it was a lot better than she thought it would be. She's not the most confident person in the whole world, but she very much deserves to be. But she wrote this thing. It was absolutely brilliant. It's mind-changing stuff. And it was published. And then we realized at one point, we got the news that it was nominated for a Human Rights Award, which was crazy. We were so excited. And we went to this award show, and Mum said, look, I'm not going to win, but they've got free cocktails, so let's just go anyway. And she made sure all of us sat to the side of the venue to not get in the way of all the winners who would walk through. And it was the very first award that was announced, a literature award, and the MC got up there. Huge, huge room, hundreds and hundreds of people, lit stage, and he says, and the winner is Missing Christopher by JED Newling. And my mum goes, oh, She's Australian too. To which we as a family replied, oh, And Dad said, mate, you better go up there with your mother. So he pushed me up, I pushed Mum up, and she made this acceptance speech impromptu because she hadn't prepared anything. And I looked at her standing behind her, this, kind lady standing there, exposing all of these inner thoughts to these people, and I realized I was so proud, but also I realized that we can achieve happiness together through family and through sharing. And her words started to help people. She was judged the same way I was, but not in a negative way. She was judged positively, and I was too. I worked out that sharing can be its own kind of therapy. It can help other people a great deal, but it can really help us too. I started talking everywhere I could, all around the country, and after seeing Mum's successes in getting great feedback for her speaking and writing, I realized I could maybe do that as a full-time thing too. And so I recently met the love of my life in New York, and I moved here a few months ago. I know, right? And I genuinely am so happy. These days, when I look in the mirror, I can comfortably say that my life has value. I am loved, and I have a positive future ahead of me. Thank you. And my parents are here tonight, all the way from Sydney, so thank you. Thank you.